Where are you at, Peter Parker?
Oh my God, what universe is this?
Oh my God.
I'm kidding, it's us the whole time.
Spider-Man.
We're going to talk about No Way Home.
A full breakdown, deep dive. We're going to get into it. Definite spoilers right from the first second.
All the stuff that we remember from seeing the movie.
For sure. So we're going to start that off, and I'm going to go very simply. Josh, what is, you think, your favorite scene of the movie?
My favorite scene of Spider-Man No Way Home. This is a big question. There's a lot of really good scenes in this movie. I'm going to have 10 minutes in. My first, I don't know if it's my favorite, but definitely the first of my favorite scenes. Charlie Cox in the MCU, Daredevil, baby. He's here. He's practicing law.
Definitely affirmed.
So yeah, catching the brick and saying, I'm a really good lawyer. I think I'm going to have to go with that as my favorite.
That was amazing. I know when it happened in the theater when I was there, the whole theater was, oh yeah. Everybody blew up on that for sure.
What about you, Jeremy? What's your favorite scene?
Oh man, like you said, there's so many, but the one that caught me off guard and it made me tear up a little, I can't even lie, was the scene where MJ starts falling and Tom Holland comes in for the save. Green Goblin swipes him away and you're like, oh no, she's definitely gonna die. And then out of nowhere, here comes Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, poor lowly lumber Spider-Man number 3.
Spider-Man 3
saves the day, and when he hits the ground, the look on his face is what got me.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
It was so good. His acting was perfection right there.
And it was in the scene, too, because he says to MJ, are you okay? And she says, yeah, are you okay?
I know. It was so good. That was the one. It got me so good.
Because he didn't save Gwen, but he saved MJ.
That's right, man. It was such a good, you could just tell.
Oh, yeah. And it sounds like he might get another shot.
That would be awesome.
So we're going to talk all about Spider-Man, A No Way Home. We're going to talk about the future of the MCU and what it might look like, what we know, what might be happening, and maybe what the future of Spider-Man. And we're also going to talking about the aftermath of this movie, the emotional aftermath.
For sure. We're going to be talking about everything. First, we're going to go over the breakdown and the aftermath. So stay tuned, stick in, and
all this and more on Unsolicited Conjecture.
Woohoo! Roll that music.
This episode of Unsolicited Conjecture, as always, brought to you by Red Bull. Red Bull, you'll have to piss halfway through the episode.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. As we talked about earlier, we are going to be discussing right now, basically the storyline is what we're breaking down into right now.
Spider-Man
No Way Home.
A No Way Home. And right off the bat, we had there were a lot of theories running around. Well, we had a lot of ideas.
Yeah, there were a lot of people you thought were going to show up that never showed up.
Well, like I said, there's the cool thing about this movie, what No Way Home really represented was the beyond just like a movie that covers the scope or like sort of reframes and acts as a conclusion to 20 years of Spider-Man movies. Beyond that, this movie had so much potential as far as what could happen. Because this is the first time we've ever seen a Spider-Man movie with motherfucking Doctor Strange in it. Who can make anything pretty much happen narratively that you want to happen. So there's been, obviously, we didn't get Fantastic Four. We didn't get those guys. We didn't get, there's no Logan in this movie.
That's the only thing I was honestly disappointed about.
But apparently, we got like 4 months until Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And if you think about it, this movie was a joint venture with Sony and Marvel.
Oh, for sure.
Marvel's not going to waste their X-Men on a movie that they're sharing profits with Sony on. There is enough with just the Spider-Man history to be able to put together an incredible film and probably the best superhero movie ever. Right? I mean,
I honestly, I know for sure it's the best movie I've seen this year, without a doubt.
Sure. And I'm coming as a diehard Ghostbusters fan who absolutely loved Afterlife.
this gave you everything you wanted. It had all of the emotional peaks and all of the action-packed valleys. Like it was just heartbreaker after
Oh, yeah.
heartbreaker, awesome scene after awesome scene.
And
It
the
was
way
great.
you're right, the way that like the comedy in this movie, it's cutting through so much tension. Like the entire like last hour of the movie is an ecstatic experience because you're going back and forth between tears and exclamations of joy. It's really an incredible thing that they put together. But yeah, so there's a lot of things we didn't get to see in this that, hey, we get to just shift those predictions farther forward. We did get Charlie Cox.
Yeah, I mean, right away you got Charlie.
We got
Cox.
Daredevil, and as of last week, we saw old Uncle Wilson is back in Hawkeye. So that's a really good sign for the future of the MCU.
There was a photo. That's correct.
There's a photo, and we're recording this on Monday, so we don't know how Hawkeye ends yet. We'll find out.
We're excited about that.
We're very excited about that. That's the thing. It's like this movie did such a good job of, I don't know, I came out of it just as excited for the future of Marvel as I felt before.
For sure.
Leading up to the movie, because it's just so much. But anyway, like we said, we'll start at the beginning. So right off the bat, this movie starts right where Far From Home left off. We get to see New York right as J. Jonah Jameson is breaking the news.
Yeah, the second the last movie ended is where this one picked up.
Of course, this time we get to see it a little bit more like from Mary Jane's or MJ's perspective, because she's not actually Mary Jane.
What's her name? Melissa
Jones. And we learned in this, I don't know if we learned before that, but her name is Jones Watson.
Okay.
And she said, I don't go by the Watson. So, which actually makes sense. We know, MJ had a bad relationship like with her dad. Mm-hmm. Remember? He was like kind of a shitty guy in the comics and in like the Tobey Maguire movies. So she just doesn't use that guy's name. Makes sense. But it lends more credence to the notion she is MJ Watson. She is Mary Jane. She's not going to be replaced later on with a redhead.
Yeah, she just has a different name.
Yes. So we start off with that. We get some fun Spider-Man swinging through New York kind of scenes, and it leads us pretty much straight into the police knocking down the door.
Yeah.
It was fun seeing. It was fun seeing Jon Favreau play heartbroken, just like in Swingers. He does that really well.
The funny part is me and my wife just watched the first few seasons of Sopranos.
Oh yeah.
And he's in that when he's like 22, and to just see him in this movie, I was like, man, he looks old right now.
He does.
But it's because I just had such a stark comparison of 22 to what is he now, like 50 something?
He's probably in his
56?
50s, yeah. Well, and even better, he was Happy Hogan, obviously in the Iron Man movies, but he was also Foggy Nelson in the Batman or the Batfleck, the Ben Affleck Blind Fleck Daredevil, whatever it was.
Okay.
Yes, he in that Daredevil movie, he was Foggy Nelson.
I know you just watched it recently. I haven't seen that forever.
Oh, we could talk. There are things we could say about the 2003 Daredevil movie, but I think that requires its own episode.
Oh,
that's not.
We're not talking about that during Spider-Man for sure.
No, I mean it's nice to see an alternate version, alternate universe Foggy Nelson hanging out with Matt Murdock on screen. That was pretty good. But that whole scene, since we're there, that whole scene with Matt was really good. It wasn't much. There wasn't that much to it. And
that's what was so good about it, though, is that there wasn't much to it. It was literally just look who this is, bitch. And everyone in the theater was like, bitch.
He kind of showed up and told them, like, their charges won't stick. But
I loved it.
But Happy, you're going to need a really good lawyer.
You're going to need a really good lawyer. How'd you catch that brick? Because I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It's just nice to see him in the MCU in general, because and also some, as we think about the future, we'll get there. We'll talk about it later. Never mind. I'll save it for the end. Okay. I don't want to talk about a prediction in the middle
predictions
of
at the end. Storyline now.
Yeah. So after we get our Daredevil cameo and we move on from there, we start seeing like the fallout of Peter's secret identity getting out and how it's affecting his family, how it's affecting his friends. They're not getting into college. You know, they all wanted to do the MIT thing. I kind of figured he wasn't going to end up going to MIT.
Yeah,
because you don't
for
put
sure.
Spider-Man in Boston.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. He's a New York boy.
I mean, you
So-
could, but you don't really put Spider-Man in MIT.
Yeah.
He doesn't belong there.
No,
He has to be in
have
New
him go
York.
to
You're
Columbia.
right.
It's Ghostbusters. They own Ghostbusters as well, so have him go to Columbia. But when he's in the donut shop where Mary Jane or MJ works, I'm gonna keep doing that. Where MJ works, and he's looking at the Halloween decorations, and there's little Dracula.
Strange? Yeah,
Yeah,
it was just like
the little
Strange.
Dracula lights, and he
Uh-huh.
sees a Dracula with like a goatee, and he's like, I know what to do. So that's a really fun scene we get in the Sanctum Sanctorum, you know, with the snow and everything. Obviously, Peter is going to talk to Doctor Strange about making everybody forget that he's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
well, first he
man.
wants to go back in time and then realize he doesn't have the time stone. But even though he doesn't have the time stone,
He's still wearing the
he's
medallion.
still wearing.
I thought
So
that
that-
was strange too.
Well, it was
Is there a reason for it, you think?
Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I also noticed
everything he
that-
does is strange.
That very first scene where Doctor Strange comes down the stairs and he's introduced the first time, that's the only time you could tell it's 100% hairpiece on his head.
Oh,
The rest of the movie you could never tell, but that scene, it is just like, man, somebody did some bad application
I didn't.
right there.
I didn't even.
Oh
notice
man,
that.
I noticed it instantly. I was staring at it like, man, look at that peak.
Yeah.
Not
he,
to derail you too much.
Well, Doctor Strange, you know, floating down the steps. I just thought it was fun that like he's still wearing the Eye of Agamotto. It just goes to show maybe that necklace, that like pendant, had additional magical
Yes.
capabilities
That's just what
beyond
I
just how.
assumed.
Yeah,
Oop.
it was strong enough to house the time stone, but it probably has its own, you know, functions. And it just looks great, and you can wear it with anything, you know. So it's just great to see, you know, to watch Peter Parker in live action, just mess up Doctor Strange as he's trying to cast a spell.
I did actually really like that part. It's like the annoying kid bothering mom while
Yeah,
she's cooking.
it was
Like,
great.
they pulled it off really well.
Yeah, and 6 times. You interrupted my spell 6 times. And he manages to contain it, and we think everything's fine. And then, after resorting to magic, then Doctor Strange says, well, hey, if you've already called admissions and pled your case, there's nothing else you could do.
I didn't know I could do that.
Which is great. I love that Peter Parker goes to magic before he goes to just, you know,
Obviously,
normal.
a young kid thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah,
Pulling off
definitely.
the Spider-Man aspect. Even though he's starting to look older, still trying to make him seem
Yeah.
as young
He's
as
a
possible.
25-year-old, 18-year-old
Yeah.
now. But yeah. So then we see him on the bridge trying to track down the admissions lady, and out of nowhere we get Doc Ock back fresh out of Spider-Man 2. Like some of the best, then this goes for Doc Ock and for Goblin, some of the best like de-aging we've seen to date.
Yeah.
It's undetectable.
Yeah.
Like there are parts you would really need a picture, like a modern picture of the actor to hold up next to the screen to even see what they did. It just looks so clean, which I was really, really impressed with that. But
I was also impressed with that. It was awesome.
But yeah, Doc Ock coming up under the bridge, like, and that scene was so cool because he's obviously from that moment. Like, we know exactly what moment that Doctor Strange came from. He said, I was holding him by the neck. There's that shot is in Spider-Man
Yeah.
2. So right at that point was when he was pulled into our universe, and it's just cool that he kind of came up. He was in the same place.
Yeah, it's
that he was
crazy to
in.
also think about the fact that both of them got pulled into the universe, but they got pulled into separate places in the universe,
'Cause
even
there's-
though they were there together.
It was based on where they were, and it was also from different points in time, right? So
Yeah, well, okay, so Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man number 2 got pulled in, and Doc Ock got pulled in at the same time from the same place, but got pulled into 2 different
at
places.
different points in their lives. Yeah. Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, didn't get pulled until he was in his 40s.
Yeah, that's weird.
So, yeah. No, I don't fully understand how the spell works. I'm going to say that right now. I don't know if it's my fault or if it's theirs or if they're just like, it doesn't really matter.
A small piece of incontinuity.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. The movie's so good, I'll forgive them whatever,
Well, it's funny that they think about that, but then there's these super small little details where, like, you notice as soon as Peter comes out of the Iron Man spider suit, all of his suit jacket is wrinkled. Everything is just wrinkly. Like it had actually been under this super tight armor suit. I thought that one small attention to detail was something I'd never seen them pull off in the Marvel universe yet. And it was awesome. It pulled you in that much more because it was it was realistic. And when he was wearing the half tie for like the next 20 minutes, it was good stuff.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we get an awesome scene with Doc Ock, straight out of Spider-Man 2. We figured, obviously, the tentacle grabbed his chest, and the nanites took over. The nanites.
I didn't expect it to work like that.
No,
though.
it was very easy. Yeah, it was. Well, it kind of goes to show how different of a Spider-Man the MCU Spider-Man really is.
Yeah.
Too, the fact that he's that high tech that he can pairing complete, and all of a sudden you just hijack Doc Ock's tentacles. Like that was pretty good. I definitely was not expecting that. And then out of nowhere we get the Goblin showing up right before they're whisked through a portal. And then we get into the real meat of the story where we put, Peter and Doctor Strange back together, and we find out some of the spell slipped through even though he contained most of it, right? So at that point, we need to Scooby-Doo this shit and have Peter and MJ and Ned running around.
Scooby-Doo this shit, correct.
Yeah, running around and tracking down all these invading villains. Man, like at this point in the film, you were what, like an hour in or something?
Yeah,
or
something like that.
45 minutes in?
Before they even introduce all those other people, you're 30 minutes in. Before they even introduce kind of well, I guess it's probably about 20, 25 minutes in before he even goes to see Doctor Strange.
Yeah, there's some movie there. I don't know. Man, there's just so much going on at that point already. Like just having with Alfred Molina back, and then bringing in, Lizard is already waiting there.
Yes.
When he talks.
I was wondering if they were ever going to show his actual character and the Sandman. Because,
he stayed. Well, yeah, and I don't know if he just wasn't available during like primary filming, because actually I think some of the Sandman shots from the end, when you actually do see his normal like skin, were shots pulled directly from Spider-Man 3. Oh. So they weren't. I don't think he was ever actually on set.
Oh man, I don't think he was there. Think about.
He just did like ADR. Just
because even in that, I guess he had the ability to shift from skin to sand.
Yeah, he went back to looking normal at times.
Yeah, whenever he wanted.
But he never did.
That was a funny scene when he kept trying to wipe the sand off the couch.
The sand on the couch was really funny. The high five when Peter gives him the low high five and just knocks his hand off. That was pretty great.
Yeah, like we're covering all this main topic matter of the actual storyline itself, but there are so many small moments in this movie. And that's what we don't get. Like, that's where all of these review bases are coming from, where everyone's like, this movie is everything you want it to be, because there are so many just small little details that everyone can latch on to.
Well, and just like a comic book, the little things you find in the background of the cell. Like there's those. This movie absolutely satisfies in pretty much every way possible. There's not, I can't think of anything that I would have changed, and like I said, there's whole chunks of this that I don't totally get. I don't totally understand how the spell worked. But we can talk about that a little bit later.
Well, we know how the spell initially worked. I mean, it was basically just supposed to, it's the same spell he cast at the very end.
It's supposed to bring in people who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, which it did, except Electro didn't know Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and he had a different haircut. But does that mean that he was taken from further in the future when he did find out? Because then it feels like at the end he still didn't know.
No, because they even said, they talk about the scene where he dies.
He's like, you gotta have a nice face.
Well, they do talk about the scene where he dies into the grid, but my whole thing is like, why was him as a character so much different than the character that was in
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yes. Like he was more Jamie Foxx and less character who was in the movie.
Yeah. Well, because personally, I think the character in Amazing Spider-Man 2 was bad. I don't think it was very good. When I looked at that Electro, that version of Electro fits better in like the Joel Schumacher, like Batman and Robin universe.
Oh yeah, less blue jelly creature.
Yeah,
and
he
more
doesn't.
person.
He doesn't seem like a Spider-Man villain. Like the way
But
he
I'm
talks to
talking
himself. It's
less
almost like
about the appearance. I'm not talking about the appearance. I'm
No,
talking
not
about
the appearance.
attitude of
yeah,
the character.
the character, the way the character talks. He talks the way that he talks almost in the third person, or like in the way that like the Poison Ivy does in Batman and Robin. It's a very campy version of the character that I don't think necessarily fit with the darker, more realistic tone of those movies overall.
Yeah.
Like the Amazing Spider-Man movies were the darker, more grounded Spider-Man compared to the previous Sam Raimi movies. So then to bring in a villain who was almost like wackier, because he had the comb over and I don't know, he was just goofy. And the way he talked to himself felt like Jim Carrey in Batman Forever, talking to himself. It was that same. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
I think it had more of that.
If you're going to bring the character over from a space where it's already been, it should be more like every other character was the exact same. Doc Ock was.
I think they just took the
it.
opportunity to write the injustice of the past and
Yeah.
just do it.
I wish it would have been something that happened on screen.
Well, sure. Well, that's what I mean. If
they indicated it well by the gold change of electricity.
He
from
started
the blue.
off blue. Well, that was the. I think the explanation was the yellow energy.
Yeah, it was more powerful.
But it was the energy from our universe, whereas his was blue.
Exactly.
So there was that changed his color. His hair, I think he's just from further in the future.
Like I said, I don't mind the costume.
Maybe
change
he lost
at all.
I just think
we would have seen some sort of. I wish we'd have seen that character progression. If he'd have started out as still kind of nerdy and like 10, 15 minutes in after he's absorbed lots of our world energy, it's physically changing him in a way.
Yeah, at least I think he literally just, that's from later on in his timeline where he would have had like a different haircut.
I think Jamie Foxx was just like, nah, I'm playing that dude again. I'll play this dude.
Yeah. Well, no, probably because it wasn't very well received.
Yeah.
It's not it doesn't fit well with the tone of the movie. It was one of the weirdest choices, one of the weirdest things about the whole movie. I have no problem with Jamie Foxx as Electro. Like, I really liked it in this movie.
Yeah, I liked his outfit change at the
end.
He
was funny.
It was good.
It was he like the interaction between the villains was one of the best parts of the movie too. Like just the comments back and forth, because obviously we have this meta knowledge about the franchises and where everybody comes, but them figuring it out between each other and talking about their origin stories and stuff.
You died.
I fell into a tank full of electric eels. That'll do it. Like,
I fell into a super collider.
Like, gotta watch what you fall into. Like, yeah, there's really fun stuff in that movie. But yeah, I loved the new Electro, but he was the sort of the odd man out as far as like everybody else did die. Well, except for Kurt Connors, he didn't die.
Well, everyone else's character looked and performed the exact same.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I just thought that was the only part of incontinuity between all the movies that was just instantly stick out sore thumb, and it's because they didn't address it at all, really.
Well, I think the way that you'd have to address it is, all right, if Electro can turn his body completely into electricity and become a fully energetic form, then when he reforms into a solid body, it's most likely based more on his mental projection of himself than any actual like map of what his body was before.
No, for sure.
You know what I mean? So if he wants to have a better hairline, once he's in more control of his powers, he can manifest himself with a better hairline. I don't know that there's much to, like I said, we need another movie to really show how that character changed. I think it's just good to have.
Like I said, I don't think the costume. Once again, the costume and his appearance has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm talking about who he was as the person.
Yeah, the character. Yeah,
like I said, I think they could have explained it very easily. It's my only gripe about the whole movie.
I don't think there's anything to
explain.
It's just it's him from the future. It's a future version of him that we hadn't met yet. That's the only thing that would make sense. And like I said, I think.
But that doesn't make sense to me because when they're all having their banter in that room together, stuck in the cells, he has the realization that, oh yeah, wait, I just died right there. He was the first one to realize he died.
That he was about to die, but that doesn't mean that that was the fight that we saw in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Because that scene didn't really happen that way, the way they described it. I didn't think. We'll have to see it again to double check. But I got the impression that the time when Spider-Man was about to kill him, that's Andrew Garfield not pulling his punches anymore from in the future, like after Gwen died.
Yeah.
So maybe, that was part of it too. But once again, I don't fully understand how the spell worked or why it pulled who. Cause
from when?
It seems like, because obviously the two Spider-Men were pulled from their version of 2023 when the movie takes place.
They were both future version of them.
Yeah, the same year as Spider-Man, whereas the other villains got pulled from right before they died, but they had to know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. But Electro didn't.
Yeah.
But the person who did, and also, the Lizard didn't die.
Yeah.
And Sandman didn't die.
Yeah.
So, I don't understand that, but we know for a fact Topher Grace's Venom did know Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and he died, but he didn't show up.
And Tom Hardy's Venom barely showed up.
Yeah, he just got drunk in a bar the whole time, which is funny.
Very, very accurate to his character.
It's about as good. Yeah, that's probably the best way that his character would fit in with all of that. Is to just, not really participate. It makes the most sense. So yeah, I don't get it. But also, this is the first time in a movie like this that I haven't really understood the rules.
Yeah,
and I also don't really care at all. I think it's fine.
No, accurate. We're picking apart little tiny details that we've talked about, but like overall, still the best movie you've seen all year. Probably the best suit. Like if you liked Avengers Endgame, then this is exponentially better.
This is Spider-Man
exponentially better.
Endgame was the culmination of 10 years of movie making.
Yeah.
This is 20 years of movie making.
Yep.
This goes back to before I was in the army for me. Like that's a big chunk of life, that I've had Spider-Man movies. And it's pretty cool.
Man, as you can tell, it was good because we're like 25 minutes into this take and we're not even we just barely talked about what the movie is actually about.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what?
Why don't you tell me?
We'll be right back.
All right, that was an amazing break.
And we are back.
That we are. What were we talking about? Where were we in the storyline?
Okay, so we got Electro and Sandman.
Yeah, we deep dive into Electro.
Yeah, Sandman, he just sort of showed up and
he was friendly with Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, because this movie really focuses in on one of the coolest things about the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. Spider-Man probably has some of the best villains of any movie or any comic book series. Obviously, Batman's got his classics. The Flash actually has a pretty good, Rogues Gallery.
The Flash, man. Can we just talk about the book named Flashpoint? I just thought that was the hardest jab at DC right there.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Right
Flash Thompson.
The Flash movie.
Yeah, a year. They beat him by a year. And honestly, this movie,
they beat him to the multiverse. They beat him to Flashpoint. The name.
And they're doing such
all around.
It's such a better version, too, because obviously this movie, we get to see the main three Spider-Men of our lifetimes all coming together, fighting side by side. Whereas in that movie, we're going to see a whole bunch of Ezra Miller talking to himself.
Lame.
Which isn't anyone's favorite Flash, I don't think.
It's just
because you already have Grant Gustin in the show, and then
who is everyone's favorite Flash.
But then also they have John Wesley Shipp playing Henry Allen, Barry Allen's dad. So John Wesley Shipp was the Flash in the 90s Flash series. So they already wove that guy back into the narrative of the show. So you already have two Flashes in that Flash show. And now they're doing the movie with just a bunch of Ezra Miller.
Instead of introducing any of their old stuff.
Which is not going to be anywhere near as exciting as seeing Tobey Maguire and good old Tony Maguire.
That just goes to show once again how DC, in comparison to Marvel, just really doesn't.
They got scooped.
Well, it's just I think they don't put as much attention to detail into their scripts and storyline.
It seems like they're always playing catch up. They never have a plan.
Or they're just relying on graphics more than story, I think.
I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm excited to see the new Batman. It looks like they might be bringing it back a little bit.
Yeah, the Batman, which should be fun. I see them all.
Yeah, for sure.
I love seeing them all, but they're not scoring any points on the old scoreboard. Let's check the scoreboard. As you can see right here, Marvel in the lead.
Look at right there. Also, look at that number on Spider-Man right now. $584 million?
$584 million.
$584 million.
Opening weekend, 0.6 billion.
That's crazy.
In what, 4 days? That's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I mean, we knew that just from trying to get tickets.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Like $40 of that is me.
Yeah.
So we made our contribution. Disney. Yeah. You're welcome.
$584,040.
There you go. So yeah, and still that was an estimate. I saw that was like a late Saturday or early Sunday morning estimate. So who knows? They could have hit 600 million already.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I would fully expect this movie to make $200 billion. I think it could.
$200 billion.
Right, well, maybe $2 billion.
That's a more number.
Yeah, 200 billion.
I would like it to hit 200 billion. I bet the studios would love it to hit 200 billion.
Well, then, because I think Spider-Man No Way Home would become like the biggest part of like our country's export. Be the entire economy would be Spider-Man based, as it should be.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad economy.
No, I'd take it. So anyway, back to No Way Home. When we last met, webheads will remember we were talking about the movie, and obviously Peter gets his little web shooter deal that lets him.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that whole scene. He like took a part of his suit.
I think that's the
web slinger,
the nanobot like suit, like bracelet thing that he cast a spell on, so that anybody who shot with it, it would send them to the Undercroft.
Yeah, I just didn't understand where the piece itself came from.
I think that was
the theory behind it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was how the nano suit
It made me laugh,
looked.
actually, the shot where he shot at that electro and it went right through, and they did a little zoom in. That was a funny shot right there.
Is that like a tree monster? It's just a tree man.
That was good.
Electro had some really good lines in this
I really like Ned in this movie, too.
Ned was good, yeah.
Honestly, before it ended the way it did, I thought it was probably going to put Ned on the line to be like a future Wong, if you will.
I think, well, who knows? Maybe we will see him. Maybe he will get to do some magic stuff with Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange isn't going to forget him. Doctor Strange doesn't forget, MJ. They were there with Spider-Man.
Yeah, but
you just don't know who Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
So there's nothing saying that those guys, because obviously they're only going to MIT because the lady talked to the admissions board about them and Peter, but everybody forgot who Peter was.
Yeah, so
they end up going to MIT and he doesn't. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know exactly how that works either. Like,
well, that was my question. Are they even in the franchise from this point future?
I think they will be.
I think the whole next storyline is probably going to be Peter going after MJ again.
It depends. Depends what the next movie is and when it's set. It could be, obviously, they could easily set the next movie in the summer, and they're both home, for summer break.
Yeah.
They could do something like that. I think personally, they should head towards a Felicia Hardy situation. Introduce her, because haven't we seen a Felicia Hardy?
Well, we also theorized like a Spider-Gwen that never popped up.
Yeah, Gwen Stacy. Well, yeah, that was another possibility that they haven't shown yet, but that's something that we might get in the future. So anyway, we get all our villains. They're all, they all get zapped into the Undercroft at some point, at which point Doctor Strange comes in to send them all home. He has the spell in a box, and when you push the magic button, it sends everybody home.
Have around.
But Spider-Man, Peter Parker, doesn't want to do that because he knows some of these guys are going to die. And some of them, sending them back is like a death sentence in and of itself. And actually, before we got derailed, what I was saying is the thing that's so cool about the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery is that most of them aren't really evil. They're not really bad guys.
Yeah.
They get affected by something, or they make a decision that leads, that changes them in some way.
Yeah, that's pretty much the premise.
Yeah, but Green Goblin, like every single one of them, they get taken over maybe by their own ambition, but it's always metaphorically some type of super science.
Yeah, even
Venom, they're not bad people. They're not the Joker. They're not murderers.
Yeah.
They don't enjoy killing. Maybe half of the Green Goblin does, but the other half, the real half, doesn't. So it's really cool to see Peter sort of as the sort of moral center of the movie, and even having to like rein in Doctor Strange a little bit, who, even though he's a doctor, he was like a surgeon, and those dudes, like, they don't even meet their patients.
Yeah, exactly. They just walk in and cut.
That is not the empathetic type of medicine that he practiced. So obviously he's not, the most empathetic guy. And it was fun, obviously, to see. Then we get Spider-Man fighting Doctor Strange in like the mirror dimension, which was a great scene.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. When Peter gets knocked out of his body and his arm keeps just like moving the box out of the way. I thought that was just the spider reflexes. That was pretty fun.
And the way he swims back to his body was funny too.
Yeah. It was good. It was that whole scene was really, really good time. And then we see Peter using his intellect inside the mirror dimension to create the appropriate web to catch Doctor Strange.
And math, which I would never be able to do, Peter Parker. So thank you. I would have
better him than me.
Yep.
Yeah. And gets back with the box, leaves Doctor Strange, takes his sling ring, and leaves him hanging over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours. At which point the movie takes a very different turn, and they round up all the villains and take him to Happy Hogan's apartment.
Which makes no sense. That's the one part that makes absolutely no sense. Couldn't you have just treated the problem right there?
Well, Peter knew that Stark case was in Happy's apartment.
Wow,
they showed it, and
he's kind of super strong. He could have probably just swung right over there, picked up that box, brought it on over.
Maybe. I get, but they had to hide, right? They're trying to hide too. I don't know.
Anyway, I guess, in case Doctor Strange came back.
Or I don't know. Was there something else? I can't remember.
That's all I can think of.
Just
in case
Doctor
Strange back.
So as they start doing their little science experiments, and we get a fun scene we would never really expect to see in a Spider-Man movie, to just have like Peter and Aunt May just sort of hanging out in an apartment with 5 of the primary Spider-Man villains. Yeah. And to just sort of have these like casual conversations that were really, really entertaining. There's some great dialogue in that whole scene. And then of course we see the villains start to, we get, that really cool scene where his spider sense kicks in, or his Peter tingle.
Oh yeah, when he can tell Green Goblin's taking over.
He knows something. Yeah, he knows it's going to happen. And then at that point, some of them stop trusting, and everything kind of falls apart. We got J. Jonah Jameson outside waiting to get some incriminating Spider-Man footage.
He's the only one who didn't have to get pulled over because he's the exact same guy in every universe.
Yeah,
he's always
there. Yeah, but so it continues through there, and everything kind of goes crazy. They all get separated. Aunt May, of course, Aunt May dies, and we see, as soon as she said, "With great power, there must also be great responsibility." I'm like, oh no!
Instantly, what's happening right there?
That's the kiss of death.
I said, and Brittany's like, she looked at me, what?
Yeah,
like, it's coming.
It's coming. As soon as you hear that line, because it was always kind of a question. Like in Far From Home, when he's going to Europe, we see Peter carrying a briefcase or like a suitcase that has the initials like BFP on it, which makes you think Ben Parker. Maybe that's Uncle Ben. And maybe Uncle Ben did die. He died off camera.
Never saw that.
Maybe it was years ago. It's starting to seem like maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't die. Maybe they got divorced and he just had that.
Or he could have just died of natural causes or something a long time ago.
Yeah, it could have been any number of things. But he didn't lose Uncle Ben like it was his fault, obviously. So just to see the story changed in that way, and it sort of reframes everything with Tony Stark and like everything leading up to it, all of this, having the Stark suit was in and of itself sort of a set of training wheels
Yeah.
for Peter Parker before he's fully Spider-Man, before he could just trust his own abilities in a cloth suit, So it's really neat seeing that, and definitely I was not expecting it. As she got up, I thought, they're not going to kill Aunt May.
I was expecting it the whole movie, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought that they took her character throughout every scene that she was so compassionate compared to what she had been in the previous movies I just saw something coming there.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's easy to say in retrospect. I didn't know that they were going to kill her, but
Yeah.
I was like, something's going on because they're giving her more screen time. There's more of that. They're breaking those tense moments with these emotional moments with her. She's always repeating the same thing. It's like she's taking over that Ben character.
She really did. And oh man, but while we're there too, that the fight scene between Peter and Goblin, like smashing through the floors and stuff.
I love
that was
that
incredible.
Part.
That was
I
so
love
good.
That part.
And the look that Willem Dafoe gives when he sees Aunt May on the ground and he pulls out the pumpkin bomb and he's got like this smile on his face as that was terrifying. Like this Willem Dafoe
is amazing.
He's absolutely incredible. And I mean, this performance I think it tops the first Spider-Man,
Oh man, he was incredible. And I'm pretty sure he did all of his own stunts and everything for the movie.
Yeah, I read that he didn't want to do the role unless he could be part of all of it and do all of his own stunts. So yeah, he's what, 62?
Ass,
yeah, he's incredible. So he just stellar performance all around from him, from Alfred Molina. Jamie Foxx was hilarious.
No, I do. I liked his character.
Obviously, we didn't get as much from what's his name from Wings. Or
the lizard?
No, the lizard was Rhys Ifans, who played Sandman. I can't think of his name. Was he in Wings?
The TV show?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I haven't thought about that stuff in a long time.
Yeah, but that's the guy who Thomas Hayden Church. No, is it Thomas Hayden Church?
I can't tell you what his name is.
Maybe. Maybe it's Thomas Hayden Church. Maybe not. We'll find out when you comment down below and let us know. But yeah, they were all great. Obviously, the Rhys Ifans and Thomas Hayden Church didn't get to do quite as much. They were in CG form the whole time. But man, that whole sequence was really, really powerful. And we get, Happy showing up at the last second, seeing what's going on. I mean, your heart's in your throat the whole time you're watching that.
Well, the whole 10 minutes after that is probably like the best acting Tom Holland has ever done in his career.
Yeah.
That whole emotional scene, man, like I said, probably the best I've ever seen him in anything.
And he runs off, on his own, and then we're left with, with MJ and Ned having to find Peter Parker, and Ned stretching his magic fingers with the good old sling ring. And when he opens that portal, he says, "Show me Peter Parker," and we finally get to see Andrew Garfield.
As you saw that silhouette, I knew.
No, you knew.
Yeah,
right away.
You knew instantly. You're like, that's not Tom Holland.
Not you. See, because Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man eyes were more similar to like the Todd McFarlane eyes. They took up way more of the face.
Well, you could tell just from the silhouette when you just see the outline of him in the.
He has sort of that.
Oh, it's coming.
He's always got sort of that hunch, Oh, and he comes in when he pulls off that mask. Everybody went crazy.
Yeah,
both
you're right.
times I saw it. Everybody went crazy. And when he jumps up, he's sticking by his hand.
Yeah, now crawl
around. She's like, "Why? It's not enough. It's definitely enough."
The donut throwing scene, just that whole scene had me rolling.
Don't throw the bread. It's like, "Don't you have the tingle thing?" Yeah, I have the tingle thing, just not for bread. Oh, the whole scene from the moment he stepped onto the screen, it was just flawless, absolutely flawless. And then he's like, "No, show us Peter Parker." We get another portal, and in walks Toby, and
Tony Maguire.
Good old Tony Maguire.
Man, honestly, I saw some fan art of like a theory of what they thought Tobey Maguire would look like when he came back. Mm-hmm. He had this big scar across his face, and I was really hoping he was going to come back and look like beaten by time.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. He was barely wearing a Spider-Man outfit. When he comes in, he's just wearing regular clothes.
Yeah, his youth pastor clothes. Oh
no, I just don't go telling everybody I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah. He didn't get to have as much fun, I feel like, as the other two, because obviously he's got to be sort of the dad of the Spider-Man at that point. He's 40. I think the character would be around 40. I think Toby is like 46. So he's playing a little bit younger than himself, but still, it's just so much fun. So good to see both of them again.
Oh yeah.
In that role, which you would have never thought would happen. You know?
Yeah, I mean, when you watch the first Spider-Man, there's no way you were like, in the future, this is what we're going to see.
Yeah, and we're going to get him along. Like, it's just crazy.
I also really like the way they allowed them all to play those small, nuanced differences, but yet still be all so similar and the same.
Yeah, they're similar in the most important ways.
Exactly.
You know, that's the parts where they say things like, because it's what we do.
Yeah.
Because we are all Peter Parker. We are all Spider-Man. And, I mean, it makes you tear up.
I love you guys.
It's what we do. Like, yeah, I love you guys. And then thanks. Oh, it's so good. Man. And from the moment we get them back, it's like, well, where would he go? And they start arguing about what their favorite view is. And of course, Peter, this is still a younger Peter who hasn't, really spent too much time in the city being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's been all over the world being Spider-Man.
Space.
He's been in space, but he hasn't really done New York.
I love that whole
scene. He goes back to his high school.
Andrew Garfield was talking about, I'm so lame compared to you guys. I mean, I'm not lame. You are amazing.
No, you're amazing.
No, you are amazing.
I know, thank you.
Say it.
I needed to hear that.
Amazing.
I needed to hear that.
I was like, he's the amazing Spider-Man. This is so great. That was one little part I just thought was amazing.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield really gave a command performance. When you get Toby and Andrew up on the roof of the school with Ned and MJ and Peter 1. I mean, it was really surprising. I mean, the thing that catches you off guard is Peter, like Tom Holland, he didn't even want to talk to him, really. The shock of, losing May was completely overriding the fact that he was staring at two alternate universe versions of himself who look totally different and are both older and more experienced than him. That would be such like kind of a mind fuck of a moment that he can't even process it. And he didn't
even try to process it.
He just tried to shut it down. Yeah. And when they both started talking about, the people they lost, and obviously Toby lost Uncle Ben and Andrew lost Uncle Gwen.
Uncle Gwen.
And that was, it was really nice to see him get to sort of make up for that.
Yeah.
Because he never got the third movie.
That's also why I called it my favorite scene.
Yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful scene. It really is. But that whole, once they kind of get him back up, that's what we do. We need to help people. And then we get that great scene when they're in the school in the science lab.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he says Peter, and they all do the pointing at each other thing. They do the meme. That was the best. They picking on Toby about making his own web fluid, which we knew was going to be in the movie.
Yeah, we did talk about it.
Absolutely was.
I thought it was also funny. I was killed by my best friend.
Yeah. Did you have a best friend? It's like, yeah, I did. But he died in my arms right after he tried to kill me. And Ned just sort of slow back out. Oh, that was amazing.
It's the little stuff like that they really thought through.
The comparisons. What would they ask? If you met another version of you don't have all the time in the world, but what's the first thing that springs to Spider-Man's mind,
Yeah.
About other Spider-Man? The conversation where they're talking about other villains they fought, the craziest villains we fought.
Exactly.
I fought a Russian guy in a rhinoceros machine.
Making reference to Paul Giamatti from the end of the first,
Yeah. It was that Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church were both in Sideways.
Yep.
The wine movie. And they're both Spider-Man
Which
villains.
was also a great movie. I don't know if you've ever actually seen it. I loved it.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so much fun. And then we get one of the best set pieces at the end with Tom Holland calling in to J. Jonah Jameson's show and letting all those villains know they were at the
new Statue of Liberty.
The new Statue of Liberty where they were
putting the shield.
And the shield, they were just going to put it in front of the
I was
torch.
wondering the same thing too.
That was weird.
Yeah.
I don't think you put Cap's shield on the Statue of Liberty. That's a weird choice.
Yeah.
Especially if the torch is still just behind it.
Well, not to mention that there is a new Captain America.
Yeah.
So,
That seemed like a weird. I don't know why they would do it. But luckily they broke it off right away.
yeah,
So they didn't actually finish. That never happened. But one of the best like action set pieces to see, just when you finally get to see all three of them pull their masks on and they're swinging side by side.
Yep.
The way they swing into frame and all land, in perfect MCU.
And then you got to see the scene that you knew they deleted some stuff from,
Yeah.
but you saw it in all its glory.
That was one of the biggest audience reactions too. It was that shot
Yep.
when you see Sandman and everybody was waiting to watch Lizard like get kicked by Andrew Garfield, which he does because we all knew it. And there were some great memes though, about what was kicking Lizard in that shot that was blurred out. But man, just absolutely, absolutely amazing, heart-wrenching stuff too at the end with Peter fighting the Goblin on the fallen shield.
Yep. I know, I know I said it before, but Tom Holland's probably his best acting moment in his entire career throughout. But especially from the scene Aunt May dies, and then at the end where he's dealing with the rage, trying to not kill the Goblin. That he was so good.
He was
at his job there,
and he really started to feel like he could be Spider-Man, like on his own.
Yeah.
At that point too, it really felt that way. Although when he lifted up the Goblin flying,
you had doubts.
Thing. Well, Toby had to stop him.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire stopped Tom Holland from killing Goblin.
Because he knew. He said it earlier. I got to kill my guy, and it didn't make me any better,
I'm not
going to let you.
Yeah, and then Toby gets stabbed in the back, but he's been stabbed before.
Yeah, exactly. There's no rip in the suit or anything.
He's
no
been
blood.
stabbed a couple
I've just
times.
Been stabbed. It hurts. It's cool, bro.
You're in a lot of pain, aren't you?
Just send me back to my universe. I'll get patched up there.
And then Tom knows, as the universe is cracking apart, obviously Doctor Strange gets out. He takes his sling ring back, but definitely, gives a little nod of acknowledgement to Ned. It's like, did you open a portal? Huh. And then just leave it at that. That's good. But he makes the tough call. He knows that they can fix everything if everybody forgets who he was, and that's what they do. Now, I don't see why Doctor Strange couldn't have cast that same spell again and kept himself out of it, because he was pulling the string around. He could have. Seems like he could have kept himself. I don't know.
I don't know much about magic, unfortunately.
Me neither. But they cast the spell. Everybody gets sent back. We get everybody forgetting that Peter Parker is Spider-Man now.
Yep. And then Peter goes on into the coffee shop to go reintroduce. They show him doing his little walk, trying to practice his speech.
And he does the thing that he's going to do. And
yeah, exactly. And doesn't say anything.
Can't go through with it.
Yeah.
Because how do you have that conversation?
Well, not only that.
You can't.
How do you see the things? I mean, the whole movie starts off because he wants his friends to have a regular life.
Yeah.
That's the whole beginning part of the movie. So they finally get their regular life. And he's like, how do I ruin that?
Exactly.
Which is understandable.
Yeah. So he does the thing, it's fun. You see him get his shitty apartment at the end.
Yeah. He does what we would all do in that situation, and that is sew a spandex suit for ourselves and go fly around the cityscape.
I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
I
know. When you see the Central Park tree, you just have to sew spandex.
Yeah. Sometimes whenever, all of humanity forgets your identity, you gotta make a new spandex suit and swing around.
Yeah, I it's funny we talk about that because I brought that up to him in a side conversation. Is that I didn't understand why he didn't just put the Stark suit back on, because obviously it's a better choice of a suit to be wearing. But you made a great point, is the fact that everyone forgot who he is, so obviously the Stark
biometrics,
suit would.
biometrics wouldn't recognize him.
So that makes total sense why he. But I did the look of. I can't wait to see the next movie with the look of the shiny, to see what that looks like.
It looked really fun.
Yeah.
It was really nice, and it was sort of a merging between the two.
It's
also
like a
the
merge
Andrew
between
and
Tom
Toby.
Holland and Tobey Maguire.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it was really nice. But it's just cool to see, and you hear the guy saying rent's due end of the month. Like, rent, where's the rent? Like the Toby guy. You want that guy.
Exactly. You want his daughter to bring some cookies and milk over.
Yeah, but so now we have Spider-Man living in New York, unattached, nobody knows him. He doesn't know nobody. He's got no job.
I'm wondering if he'll meet Gwen in the next one.
I wonder if he'll get a job at the Daily Planet. Nope. The
Daily
Daily Bugle.
Bugle.
He might get a job at the Daily Bugle. Let's give him a camera. Let him be a photographer.
Uh-huh.
All right. Obviously, we are photographers, but it's not just bias, is what he does.
It's also part of his main
Yeah, we get
storyline.
him back as a photographer.
Maybe he'll be like a videographer.
He's a single guy in the city. I mean, there's a lot of fun you can have with that.
As long as he puts on a black suit and dances in front of the storefront like Tobey Maguire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Puts on
he
a
does
black
that.
suit.
Oh. Is that a nod to something?
Maybe he'll put on a black suit. Maybe we'll talk about black suits right after this. And we're back.
We are back, and we are now done talking about the storyline for now. I guess now let's talk about the aftermath and what we see in the future. Maybe some of the things we thought were going to happen that never happened or showed up.
Yeah, that's what's fun about this movie. Like, there were a lot of things that could potentially occur. And now we know what did occur. So
Is that how it works?
a lot of those potentialities just get to be pushed forward
Maybe in
onto
a
Doctor
different
Strange.
universe, it would be different.
Maybe a different universe version of us.
Yes,
And I'm
the
sure. Yeah,
multiverse.
yeah. Somewhere in the multiverse, there's a version of this show that, get this, is good. And with infinite universes,
We should go to that universe just to listen to
we
it.
should and kill them and take their place. And everybody like, what happened to that show?
It used
really
to be
fell
so
off.
good.
What are those guys talking about? And how come their skin's not blue? Because that's a thing in that version.
Oh, okay.
That universe, they all have blue skin, so we wouldn't.
I
fit in.
see. I see where you're
Audio
going at.
only.
I wonder if
We
they'd
just
have
go
the same
audio
name.
only podcast. Speaking of that, Jeremy, this is a YouTube show.
That's right. It is a YouTube show, but we also are now live on multiple podcast streaming services. Not quite
What?
on Apple Podcasts yet, but we are on Spotify, Castbox, and something else.
Google.
Google. There's another one too. Google.
So you can listen to us. You could watch this show. And then maybe, I don't know, you're feeling lonely. And you could put in your headphones and listen to us say the exact same things.
Except for it might sound better because you don't have to look at our faces
Yeah.
while doing it. And speaking of which, if you're watching the show, maybe you've noticed things look a little different around here. What do you think about that? Mention down below. Do you think we did a good job? Is it a bad job? Did you prefer the old way? Do you hate this way? Or do you love it like us?
Well, see, now we can do all kinds of fun things because we're like, oh, hey, now
we're in space.
oh my God, there's no oxygen.
Now we're on safari in the desert.
Oh, watch out for lions.
I doubt I'm going to put guns here, but I'll change the background.
Yeah, I don't know why we're doing this.
We both instantly went to carry
Yeah.
guns.
Well, you said, yeah, safari, right?
Accurate.
Oh.
And also, Twitter. What's that Twitter
Oh.
address?
Check out and follow Unsolicited Conjecture. This show right here.
But
it
what-
has a Twitter page.
Yeah. What's the Twitter name? What is the actual thing?
At UC with J and J. So with is the word with, and is the word and.
Not an ambersands.
Not an ampersand, just and. UC with J and J. At UC with J and J? Yes, that's it.
Or if you're just listening to this on podcast, you can also follow us on YouTube, which is at Unsolicited Conjecture.
Sure. But
Yep.
yeah, but we're saying the same thing. Either way. So watch us, listen to us. Do both. Just don't do neither.
Back to the show.
Yeah, but back to the show. Do
Wayne's World.
the Wayne's World. Yeah. So we now live in a world where we have seen Spider-Man No Way Home.
Thank goodness.
We did not live in that world for a long time, and now we're here, and I like it here, and I plan on staying. The question, though, on everyone's mind, of course, is what happens next? What are we getting next? What's going to happen? We don't know. We don't know a lot of things, but here's what we do know. This movie made $584 million in
At
the first
least.
weekend. That was the estimate, $584 million. That's a lot of money. And Sony is very, very happy.
Is that true? That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Yeah, you might be, maybe you're a billionaire and you didn't realize that 584 million is a lot of money to some people. It is. It would be a lot of. It's close to the budget of this show.
That's true. Once we pay the sound guy,
look at these stacks of gold bars we have behind us. See all of these? It's like we're podcasting from inside Fort Knox. Just
that's all the Patreon we've collected.
Yeah.
That we haven't set up yet.
And that's from the alternate universe where we have a Patreon. But yeah, so we know this movie made like over $500 million in 4 days. There's no way that this does not have massive ramifications across the multiverse. And by the multiverse, I mean Hollywood in general.
We were already on an all-time high of superhero movies.
Yeah, but now Sony...
Just imagine.
Yeah, Sony finally had like the giant Spider-Man hit that they really wanted. I think it's only going to keep making money from here. I would expect a long theatrical run, even in this, climate where things have not been hanging out very long. I think it's going to make a ton of money, and we're going to see a lot going forward because we know now all these characters are reestablished. The first thing I'll say, just watch, because The Amazing Spider-Man 3 is going to become the new Snyder Cut, where the new fan obsession.
I hope so, man. I talked multiple times in our previous episodes about how much I thoroughly enjoyed Andrew Garfield's representation of Spider-Man and that universe.
Yeah.
And then to see him come back and just absolutely crush
the
role.
It was so good.
He crushed the whole fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
His character just... He made so much. Seeing everything else is great. The whole Spider-Man universe is great. Tom Holland, his universe is great. But Andrew Garfield coming back, like he almost stole the show in a way.
He did, and well, obviously it's tough to disentangle the story from like the meta narrative of the story. And what we know is Tobey Maguire did 3 movies. He did his trilogy, and there was plans for a 4th one that they were working on, which ended up getting scrapped in favor for the new one. I don't think Tobey Maguire was quite heartbroken when it ended. He was also like pushing 30, if not 30 already, at that point. So they tend to like young Spider-Man.
I wonder why.
I know.
Spider-Man's not allowed to get old.
Yeah, old Spider-Man. Spider-Oldman. So... when Andrew Garfield took over, like, he was a diehard Spider-Man fan who got to be Spider-Man. There's a real Cinderella story in that.
It was like a role he was chasing.
Yeah. And then in very much the same way Tom Holland was.
Yeah.
Tom Holland also trained himself to be Spider-Man so he could play Spider-Man.
His little Spider-Man outfit growing up was pretty cute.
Yeah. But Andrew Garfield got his first movie, and he got the follow-up. And they killed off Gwen. They killed Gwen off, and he suffered the heartbreak. He got the downer second movie in the trilogy. He got the Empire Strikes Back, and that's where it left him. He never got the Return of the Jedi triumphant, like, really, like, that's why it was so cool to see him in this movie, to still be in that same sort of distress.
Yep.
You really felt that. It was palpable. And like his open wounds were just as big and still just as open as Tom Holland's, even though he lost Aunt May literally hours before.
Yep.
You could tell that loss of Gwen never let up on him at all.
That was one scene in particular where I thought, like, Holland and Garfield both just shot light years ahead of what Tobey was putting out at that moment.
Oh,
where
yeah.
He was busting real dad vibes, but, there was they tried to make him look more emotional than I think he was capable of portraying.
Tobey also had, like, he had a pretty serious, like, back injury, I think, at the time, during, like, Spider-Man 3.
Okay,
so
well, they make reference to it.
The whole my back thing, or in Spider-Man 2 when he loses his powers. That's something that happened to him. So I don't know where he is with that now, or how he is with,
I just noticed that, both of those two on that scene in particular on the rooftop, crying in a very realistic, believable way. And Tobey was just kind of sitting over there like, I understand your pain.
Yeah, and that was that I think was the best way to sort of mature his version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think that's what he would be. You know, he wouldn't be as jokey. He would crack wise in the suit. But it was funny. I saw somebody talk about this, I think, on Twitter. It was interesting that when Ned opened the portal, he said, "Show me Spider-Man." We get Andrew Garfield. And when he says, "Give me Peter Parker," we get Tobey Maguire. Because that's always how the breakdown sort of was. They always said that Andrew was a better Spider-Man and Tobey was a better Peter Parker. And better is, of course, arbitrary.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about two totally different tones to a movie. Tobey Maguire was more the classic, like, Revenge of the Nerd style nerd, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, back when they made the movie, it just barely existed.
Yeah. The people who saw the movie were used
reminiscent
to
of
that.
their own path.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas with, obviously Andrew Garfield he's a sexy, handsome skateboard photographer. Yeah. Like, wait, why can't he get girls?
Yeah.
You wonder that. But it's a different take on the character.
Yeah.
It was cool to see him skateboarding as,
I'm still surprised that that Miles Morales didn't pop up in some form.
In this movie?
I thought they were going to introduce him.
They could have, yeah.
Because I honestly thought that this was going to be the end of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Like,
yeah.
And progressing on to a new character. I thought I thought somebody was going to come in as Miles Morales and bring it that way. I did see a really cool trailer, a fan fiction trailer of like Miles Morales, the TV show, real life. And that probably weighed on my opinion heavily. But man, that's where I thought the whole series was going for Spider-Man.
So there's a couple different ways. So what we know, when they did the deal for this movie, it was a 2-picture deal, an MCU movie and a Sony movie. This movie, the Home trilogy, these are the Sony movies. So Tom Holland is still contractually obligated to appear in one MCU movie, one upcoming MCU movie. Obviously, it probably won't be in Avengers necessarily, but something like that.
Are they even going to continue the Avengers?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're setting up for the Young Avengers. It seems like they're setting up for the West Coast Avengers, and with Elaine from Seinfeld running around and collecting all the bad version of the Avengers. There's a comic run, I think it was after Civil War, where they were sort of like a Dark Avengers. That was led by Norman Osborn, and they had all sort of like the bad versions of all of them. Bullseye was Hawkeye, and there was a different Widow, and all that. I think they had the Red Hulk.
Colin Farrell's Bullseye?
Let's hope not. But the other Bullseye, he broke his back, didn't he? That's good old Wilson smashed his back. But I don't know. We don't know. So we still don't know if that's canon yet. But what we do know is Tom Holland is supposed to show up in another movie, at least a Marvel crossover movie. Mm-hmm. Could it be a Spider-Man Daredevil co-op movie fighting against Kingpin?
Maybe, but
that could be amazing.
Daredevil doesn't know who he is anymore either.
No, but he doesn't have to, because Peter Parker knows that something is up with Matt Murdock because he caught the brick.
Yeah.
So Peter knows that if he needs help, he knows a lawyer who could help, and there's something fishy about him too, because he's got like super reflexes. So Peter could absolutely hunt down Matt Murdock and reintroduce himself. There's nothing against the rules with that. That's the other thing. If in a future Spider-Man movie, MJ comes back to New York. I'm just going to keep doing that, apparently. If MJ comes back to New York, she's not going to know Peter Parker, but she would know Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And if he starts a Spider-Man MJ relationship, like, she was always kind of more partial to Spider-Man than to Peter Parker. He can take off his mask and he's going to be Peter Parker.
Well, it would make sense because, just like you said, that's how they're kind of leading in. Like
he has a way in to get a date with basically anyone he wants. All he has to do is be like, hey, guess what? I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, this is the real suit, too.
Yeah. So there's a lot that could happen. There's also, Deadpool and Spider-Man always had a really fun relationship.
Yeah, there's another person
comic.
People talked a lot about potentially popping up that never showed up.
Well, the rumors I'm hearing now are he might be showing up in Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, of course, because he didn't show. That's how the rumors work. He wasn't in this one, so he has to be in the next one.
But once again, those Fox movies are all Disney property now.
Yeah.
So the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, if Marvel's gonna, introduce all those characters, they're gonna want to capitalize on that. As opposed
no
to
Logan
share.
here either.
Yeah. So, but that's still, it almost makes it more likely that it'll happen in the next movie now, in Multiverse of Madness. Because a lot of the breakdowns we've been hearing have been rumoring either a Wolverine, a Deadpool cameo, a Professor X. There's a lot of stuff that we could see, and they could introduce, and we could have help out with the movie without establishing the MCU version of them.
Yeah, just an introduction.
Yeah. So, but I've been seeing a bunch of articles too saying Sony is actively looking at future projects with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
That would be my best case. Well, once again, I would like to see a non-comic version of Miles Morales rolling around. But I would love to see Andrew Garfield come back, especially maybe not necessarily get that third right after that happened.
Yeah.
But, just somewhere down the line, maybe even after where this picked up.
I think it definitely should. I mean, so we know that
we do know that. That's
we
accurate.
know it.
That's an accurate fact.
What's it? Donald Glover is who I was trying to think of. But Donald Glover in Homecoming played Miles Morales' uncle, Aaron Davis, who is the Prowler. He is like a thief kind of character, and he wears like a purple mask, and he works for Kingpin. So he and Miles' dad had a falling out when Miles' dad, who was a cop, found out that his uncle Aaron was, doing illegal stuff.
That sounds like some real Marvel backstory stuff.
Yeah, it is. But that's who Donald Glover was playing in that movie. So when he says, like, I got a nephew that lives in Harlem, he's talking about Miles Morales. So we know that a version
Do we know this for sure, or is this like some fan conjecture?
No, he's the character. He was credited as like Aaron Davis. So we already know that there's like an MCU version of Miles. He does exist. And in the comics, Miles Morales didn't have a Spider-Man. He didn't have like a Peter Parker Spider-Man to like train him. In Spider-Verse, of course, he has another Spider-Man to sort of show him the ropes. So they don't necessarily have to introduce Miles in one of the existing universes. They've obviously kind of sowed a seed, or at least an Easter egg, that he's in the MCU. You could very easily, if they were going to go like into the Spider-Verse version, bring him into the same universe as Toby. And even if they wanted to kill off Toby there, as sort of like a sacrificial Obi-Wan kind of figure,
like they did
they did in the movie, before they bring in a different one. Because the Chris Pine Peter Parker died in Spider-Verse, and then the guy from New Girl, he was the Peter B. Parker or whatever, who's in the rest of the movie. He was great. So we could end up with a Miles in any of the three universes, or they could just do a solo movie with him. But Andrew Garfield, I think I said this on the show before we saw the movie, Andrew Garfield would be the right choice of Spider-Man to fight Tom Hardy's Venom.
Yes, for sure.
So if they make that universe the Amazing Spider-Man universe, we could get some really cool stuff.
Yeah, because they never really gave a universe for Venom to be in.
No, they don't.
They never crossbred him with another character yet.
No, all we know is that he's not in the MCU.
Yeah, he's not in Tom Holland's Spider-Verse,
yes,
that's for sure.
Yes.
But he may be now after seeing the end credit scene.
Well, we don't know where he went to.
Well, Tom Hardy, I meant Venom in particular.
Venom, of course, in the post-credits scene, we find out that Tom Hardy's Venom from the Venom movies spent the entire time in a bar in Mexico just trying to figure out what was going on and getting drunk.
Which sounds accurate.
And then when it's time to pay the tab, he teleports back to his universe. But he leaves a little chunk of symbiote on the table.
Doesn't make sense to me how that's possible.
Well, that's kind of the symbiote sort of shed little chunks like that. That's how Carnage happened, I think, in one of the versions.
No, I understand why pieces of the symbiote come off like that. What I'm saying is, if it's a magic spell that's teleporting every single part of you back, how does it forget a part?
I don't know, because maybe it has to be touching.
That would be like them teleporting Spidey to home and forgetting a finger. Like, there's just a finger left on the ground there.
Trust me, there's questions to be
Yeah.
asked about how all this works. Because like we said, Topher Grace is Venom. Topher Grace died fighting Spider-Man, and he knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Yeah,
But
and
he didn't get
wasn't there.
teleported in.
Yeah.
The only one who got teleported in was Venom, because the symbiote knew, because of its multiversal like hive mind with all the other symbiotes.
I guess
So
so.
it knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, so that's why. But not the other. See, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. We know that they wanted to put Tom Hardy in the movie, but obviously not really.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
he really
they just
wasn't.
kind of wanted him in the movie.
And we didn't need Tom Hardy's Venom to come and try to help out the three Spider-Men. They
He
didn't
can't even
need
help himself yet. Yeah.
No, obviously, adding anyone else would have been too much.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see Spider-Gwen show up at the end, especially for Andrew. I don't know. I'm not saying Andrew Garfield deserves another Gwen
to
Stacy
replace.
because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, magic.
yeah, but I don't know, a Gwen Stacy who was bitten by the spider instead of Peter, who couldn't save Andrew Garfield,
And they meet in a
and
separate
they meet
universe.
in a separate universe. Yeah, I mean, there's fun to be had.
That's
there.
some hard speculation.
It is. But apparently that was rumored to be a plot point in the unproduced Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They just didn't know how to introduce the multiverse back then.
No, they wouldn't have had the same. Yeah, it wouldn't have been the same way.
Yeah.
They would have done it a different way, I'm sure, because they didn't have access to Doctor Strange. But also, we know that there is a Doctor Strange in the original Spider-Man movies, in Spider-Man 2, because there's a scene with Jameson talking to Ted Raimi in the office. They're
Uh-huh.
trying to name Dr. Octopus. And Ted Raimi's like, how about Dr. Octopus? He's like, no, I hate it. We're like, what about Doctor Strange? It's taken.
Oh, you're right.
So it's good, but it's taken. So there is a Doctor Strange in his universe, but he didn't know what the Avengers were.
Maybe Doctor Strange was just an actual real surgeon there.
In his universe, Doctor Strange should be Bruce Campbell.
Oh, man.
Could you imagine Bruce Campbell as Doctor Strange? That should be in Multiverse
I'm
of
surprised
Madness
they
right
haven't
there.
introduced. I actually heard
A
that Jackie
strange-
Chan is supposed to be in the next Shang-Chi.
I heard they want him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was so instrumental in the whole like fighting style
Yeah.
that they're doing.
That would be cool.
That would be really fun. But yeah, so there's so much potential for the future. I mean, we know.
What does this say for other movies, though? Now,
Oh, well, that's the bigger meta question. We know what it means for the MCU. We know that we're getting a Spider-Man in a cloth suit who's more of an adult Spider-Man. He might be in college, but he's going to have a job. He's going to have to make money, so he'll be taking pictures of
Yep.
himself to sell.
yep,
We
talked
know
about
he's
that.
in New York with Daredevil. He's going to be there. We know Kingpin is in New York right now because it's the finale shot of Spider-Man swinging past the tree there. Isn't that the same hotel? It's
So here's the
it's
whole
where they're
question.
fighting in Hawkeye.
I was about to say, we know that the end of Hawkeye is coming right
happening
now.
at the same
so
time.
Is there going to be some crossover between the Spider-Man movie and Hawkeye?
I think
that's
so.
about to end.
Maybe it's just the time period. We'll have to find out on Wednesday when we get the episode. But
I thought that as soon as the end scene for Spider-Man happens and he's swinging through Christmas time,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh well, look, Hawkeye is happening right now in Christmas time.
he was swinging past the signs, the
Yeah.
billboards for Rogers the Musical.
See,
as
that's
well.
I think that's I think that the next or the last final episode of Hawkeye is probably going to tie in with it somehow.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get Spider-Man in there.
No,
But-
I'm not saying Spider-Man's going to be in it, but I'm saying they're going to somehow mention these two are going to collide right
Yeah.
there somehow.
Hopefully. Well, something else that I thought was interesting, the directors for episodes 3, 4, and 5 of Hawkeye. There were two, there's one guy who directed episodes 1, 2, and 6, and then these two directors did 3, 4, and 5, and their names are Bert and Bertie. That's what they go by, Bert and Bertie. And they said that, I guess some people were asking them if they could confirm or deny if this Wilson Fisk that we saw in the picture at the episode 5 of Hawkeye, does that mean that the MCU or the Netflix shows are all canon to the MCU? And they said you have to tune in to the finale, to episode 6, and that would be addressed.
Yeah.
So we're going to know if if that Matt Murdock and this Wilson Fisk we're seeing are the same ones who fought before the snap, because all of those Netflix series occurred before the snap. So once that would have happened, it's going to obviously change everything. And then going forward from there, this is a different, we don't know. We don't know if Fisk got snapped or not. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he lost Vanessa and he was doing his own sort of Ronin thing. I mean, we don't know how it's going to go down, but we're going to have...
Man, I theorize that that Kate Bishop's mom is actually Fisk's wife, Vanessa. That's my theory right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know.
She's obviously evil.
She's evil. I think they're definitely in cahoots there.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to be the Vanessa.
She looks pretty similar to the Vanessa from the Daredevil series.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not the same person. But.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not. I still don't know how they're going to tie that in, because also there's that's Vera Farmiga, and we got what's her name from Freaks and Geeks, Hawkeye's wife.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily Linda Cardellini. We don't necessarily know what she was before. She may have been the first Ronin. She may have been a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. She obviously has some training.
Well, how would she have been the first Ronin?
That might have been her suit before. We don't know. We don't know what her role was.
Yeah.
She could have been.
She was obviously. Well, she knows a lot.
Because Echo was the original Ronin, I believe, in the comics. So if they were swapping those roles, I don't know. Well, like I said, I have not been good at predicting Hawkeye. Like, I've had kind of a general sense of what's going to go down, but like, do you think that watch was? It seemed like that watch was going to feature in a lot more heavily than just.
Well, they keep randomly bringing it up, but they're not like it hasn't served a purpose yet.
Well, yeah, because also Clint has been like, who cares about the watch? I thought it was destroyed. Like, he doesn't really understand the significance, except that it points to where his family is. So if the watch belonged to her, or if she had at one point, maybe she was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who went undercover and helped take down Kingpin or any number of things. We don't know.
Yeah.
So he might be after them. But we also know that he wants to kill Clint. Kingpin wants to kill Clint because Clint can tell Echo that Kingpin was the one who ordered the hit on her father. Because the way it worked in the comics was Kingpin had Echo's father killed so that he could control her upbringing, because he knew about her power, her ability. Okay. Her ability to just like mimic whatever fighting style or anything she sees. She could just instantly do it.
Yeah.
So he wanted to control her and turn her into a weapon, but he had to get her father out of the way. So we think, and we still don't technically know that Clint was the one in the Ronin suit who killed everybody there. Because the way they showed it in the episode, you're seeing from Echo's perspective, and she's reading lips, but she doesn't get all the words.
Yeah.
He says, "I was there that night. Hit was ordered, your boss," or something like that. So yeah, could it have been Clint? Sure. Could it have been the swordsman sent in by, or could he have been there for a different reason? I don't know. Maybe, I don't think they're going to necessarily shy away from Clint was the one who was actually doing the murdering, because he did plenty of murdering. But I think we'll have to find out exactly how it's going to land. But either way, we're going to get an active Kingpin in New York City. We know we got Matt Murdock running around out there somewhere. If it's the same one or not, there's a future for Spider-Man and Daredevil. There's a future for, Kingpin. And honestly, Kingpin and Spider-Man, they've done most of the big good villains at this point.
Yeah.
But to see Spider-Man fight Kingpin, that's always was one of my favorite matchups. I just loved that. And it's going to be so much fun. I hope we get to see that in the MCU at some point. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff potentially coming. But even beyond the MCU, what is Spider-Man No Way Home going to do to the rest of Hollywood? Like, what other series? Yeah, what other series are we going to end up with these like multiverse mashing? Are we going to get like James Bond No Way Home? A bunch of the different James Bonds together? I mean, who else could they? You got to think about series that have been rebooted a bunch of times. Or so, like, what characters are there? There's, I guess, Jesus.
I just think about it less of that and more of like as it already seems like the Marvel universe and the superhero structure of movies is kind of overtaking Hollywood. So then you see
Well,
movies like, I don't know if you saw the preview for Licorice Pizza when
mhm.
you were watching it. It looked amazing, but how many now, even less of those movies are going to get made for more superhero movies? It's just I just wonder where the future of
Eh,
Hollywood is going
I
when you
don't.
see it rake in so large, especially when before this it was already pushing towards that direction.
I mean, look, the movie theaters have always kind of been better for spectacle. Your house and your TV has always been better for story. That's kind
Which
of
is probably why
always.
series are taking such a large.
And yeah, we live in the golden age of television right now.
Yeah.
Everything is getting a 10 episode run on some streaming service somewhere. You can get your big, and not to mention this is like Disney is doing most of this.
Yeah.
Like Disney and Warner Brothers, two of like the biggest companies, are the ones responsible for all of this. And this is what people are going to see.
Yeah.
So on one hand, yeah, you got your Ridley Scotts who are always complaining and shaking their canes at superhero movies in general, saying it's destroying the business. Is it destroying the business, or is the business changing? Because Ridley Scott had 2 movies come out this past fall, with The Last Duel and House of Stanley Tucci, and like neither one I don't think drew all that much of a crowd in the theater.
Yeah, just like the new West Side Story.
Yeah, especially during a pandemic. Like Spider-Man is going to be the thing that brings movie theaters back. So sure, you could say that, oh, maybe we won't get as many like art house films in the theaters. You can get all the art house films you want, like all over the internet. Movie theaters were at risk of going away entirely.
I agree.
And now we get Spider-Man kind of saving the day for movies. So
Well, I meant right before Spider-Man, there was Shang-Chi. That also, it was kind of the first big movie.
sure,
back
it did
in the
well.
pandemic.
It did well. I don't think it's going to do well like this.
No, I'm not saying it did. I'm just saying that it was the first thing to kind of bring theaters back. It was the first
Sure.
thing that people were seeing in theaters.
Yeah, no, and I don't know. I'm happy going to the theater for the big, the big movies, but if a lot of this, I don't know. I don't, most movies, if it's not made better by watching it on a big screen, I want to watch it at my house where I can pause it and I can rewind and I can really interact with it as much as I want to. There were so many times like I saw Spider-Man twice this past weekend, and both times when you see the multiverse cracking open and you see sort of like the cloudy figures coming through, and you're like, all right, well, that one's definitely Rhino, and that one looks like Kraven the Hunter, and that might be Black Cat, but the whole time you're just thinking like, pause it. Which they don't do.
See, I never do that when I'm watching movies at home either.
Oh, see, I need to know. So I like to watch even with the subtitles turned on. So I
I
can
watch
see
subtitles a lot because my wife goes to bed and she hates it when I turn the TV up loud.
Yeah, I'm all for art house movies, and I think what's great is everybody can kind of express themselves how they want to at this point. Like, there's so much out there, and there's so many different places where you can get a movie or a series made. Like, I don't know. I don't feel bad for Ridley Scott. Or I think he's fine.
I'm not trying to say you should feel bad for anyone. I'm just saying, I'm just talking about the future progression of movie making because it's already headed that way.
Yeah, it's gonna head that way.
Superhero structure.
Yeah, and these movies all cost $300 million. I mean, Ghostbusters was what, $75 million. That was a tiny art house movie compared to a Marvel project. So yeah, when you have $300 million that you can throw at something because you're gonna make $1 billion, that's the format. That's the format that's gonna keep people actually coming to theaters, I think. But it'll be crazy to see. Like I said, there's gonna be, I think, the ramifications of this movie when everyone sees that Sony just made, however much this totals out to. I think we're going to get a lot more crossover movies, and everybody who's got multiple versions of the same property is going to be trying to find a way to bring them all together. And, it's not going to be good. I think a lot of it's going to be bad.
Lots of bad storylines.
We'll get Batman No Way Home, all the Batmans hanging out We could get Jokers.
We're already kind of getting that.
A whole bunch of Jokers hanging out. Yeah, we are. Yeah, they are. They're bringing one back at least. So we'll have to go through. Let us know. Write in and tell us what the worst version of No Way Home would be. What franchise should they absolutely not do this with?
Or they absolutely should.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
Yeah, but anyway, Spider-Man's a good movie. I'm assuming you saw it, because if not, what are you doing and why are you listening to us? Go watch Spider-Man. Give Disney all of your money. Disney and Sony.
As you already do.
Yeah. Really, what do you think, Jeremy? Final thoughts. Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh, I mean, obviously, it was a great movie. Like, I mean, it's everything everyone says it is or has been. Just go see it for yourself and get your own opinion. It was a great movie. I can't imagine not watching it.
Yeah, it really was. It really did, like, follow through on everything. And the things that it didn't address, like the theories and stuff, the characters who didn't show up in it, there wouldn't have been room, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there was already too much going on.
Yeah, some amazing performance from Tom Holland, incredible performance from Andrew Garfield, and Toby was there.
Yeah.
He did great, too. He obviously he had to be more the straight man, I think. But still, it was great to see them all again. Fucking Willem Dafoe was incredible, and Alfred Molina, and Jamie Foxx. Everybody was great. Everybody did a good job. Good job, Spider-Man.
Excellent movie.
Unsolicited Conjecture gives Spider-Man No Way Home 1 good job. That's
it.
That's a rating system. So, how about you email us? You know, I never hear from you anymore. So email us at unsolicitedconjecture@gmail.com or
all of the other multiple services we talked about earlier.
Yeah, go to Twitter. We have a Twitter, and pretty soon it's even gonna have a picture on it. At UC with J and J. I'm J. That's also J. He's J too. I'm the first J.
Yes.
But that's just because we thought it sounded better that way. It could have been. Write in. Tweet us. Should it be Unsolicited Conjecture with Josh and Jeremy or with Jeremy and Josh?
Well, do you just prefer Unsolicited with J and J or with J and J? Which one sounds better?
Yeah. Unsolicited Conjecture with J and J or J and J.
Which one of those sounds better?
But oh my God, before we go, I need to tell you guys this. Just make sure that whatever you do, you just